My cousin claims I'm abandoning family traditions by not letting her kids inherit my grandfather's farm. Hi everyone! Today's story will blow your mind, but really quick, if you enjoy this content, hit that subscribe button. Channel's been a bit quiet lately, and your support keeps it all going. Let's jump in. Part 1. The Inheritance. I never thought I'd be writing this, but I need to get this off my chest because I'm starting to question if I'm being unreasonable. My name is Michael, I'm 26, and 6 months ago, my grandfather passed away. He was the most important person in my life. Raised me after my parents died in a car accident when I was 8, taught me everything about farming, and showed me what unconditional love looked like. Grandpa left me his 120-acre farm in Pennsylvania. It wasn't a surprise to anyone. I'd been working alongside him since I could walk, spent every summer learning about crop rotation, helped rebuild the barn when I was 16, and moved back home after college to help him when his health started declining. The farm wasn't just property to me, it was home, filled with memories of learning to drive the tractor at 12, of Grandpa teaching me to read weather patterns, of countless sunrises we watched together while feeding the chickens. My cousin Patricia never showed interest in the farm. She's 8 years older than me, married to an investment banker named Charles, and they have 3 kids, Tyler, 12, Ashley, 10, and little Zachary, 6. Growing up, Patricia would visit maybe twice a year, always complaining about the smell, the dirt, the backward country life. She made it clear she couldn't wait to leave for the city, and once she married Charles, her visits became even rarer. When Grandpa's will was read, Patricia got his vintage truck collection, worth about $80,000, and $50,000 in cash. I got the farm, the house, and the remaining $20,000, which I immediately put toward urgent repairs. Patricia seemed fine with it at the time, even said she was glad she didn't have to deal with all that land and those smelly animals. But 2 weeks ago, everything changed. Patricia called me out of the blue, her voice honey-sweet in that way that always meant trouble. "Michael, honey, I've been thinking," she started. "You know, with you being single and all, running that big farm must be so lonely. Charles and I were discussing how important it is for family land to stay in the family for generations." I was confused. "It is staying in the family, Patricia. I'm family." She laughed, that tinkling fake laugh she'd perfected. "Oh, you know what I mean. Real family. With children to pass it down to. You're 26 and not even dating anyone. What happens to Grandpa's legacy when you're gone?" The conversation spiraled from there. Patricia suggested that I should consider signing the farm over to her kids, for the future of the family line. When I firmly but politely declined, she switched tactics, talking about how her children were the only ones who could carry on the family name. Tyler is Charles's son, but apparently that didn't matter to her logic. "Michael, be reasonable," she said, her voice hardening. "You're choosing to be a bachelor. That's fine, but you can't expect to hold on to family property when you're not contributing to the family's future. My children are Grandpa's great-grandchildren. They deserve their heritage." I ended the call shortly after, my hands shaking with anger and hurt. The worst part? Patricia knows exactly why I'm single. She was there 3 years ago when my fiancée, Jennifer, left me because she wanted to live in the city and I couldn't abandon Grandpa. She knows how much that broke me, how I threw myself into the farm work to heal. And now she was using my pain as a weapon. Part 2. The campaign begins. After that phone call, I hoped Patricia would drop it. I should have known better. Within days, her campaign began in earnest, and it was more calculated than I could have imagined. It started with Facebook posts. Patricia began sharing articles about family farms dying out because of selfish inheritors, and the importance of keeping agricultural heritage alive through children. Each post was carefully crafted to seem general, but our mutual friends and family members knew exactly what she was implying. She'd tag other family members, writing things like, "So important to think about the future generations. Sheaf of rice, family man, woman, girl, boy." Then came the phone calls to relatives. My Aunt Linda called me last week, confused. "Michael, Patricia told me you're planning to sell the farm to developers? She said you told her you can't handle it alone and won't consider letting her help manage it for the kids' future." I had to spend an hour explaining that none of that was true, that I had no intention of selling, and that Patricia had never offered to help manage anything. She wanted me to sign it over completely. The manipulation escalated when Patricia started bringing her children into it. She began telling them stories about their grandfather's farm and how important it was to preserve family traditions. According to my cousin Samuel, who heard it from his mother, Patricia had been showing her kids pictures of the farm and telling them about all the things they could do there someday. Last Sunday, things reached a new low. Patricia showed up at the farm unannounced with all 3 kids in tow. I was in the middle of repairing a fence when I saw her SUV pulling up the long driveway. Uncle Michael. Ashley ran up to me, her face bright with excitement. Mommy says we're going to learn about our heritage today. I looked at Patricia, who was unloading a picnic basket from her car. I thought it was important for the children to connect with their roots, she said smoothly. You don't mind, do you? After all, this is their family history too. What could I say? I couldn't be cruel to the children who had done nothing wrong. So I gritted my teeth and gave them a tour. But Patricia's comments throughout made my blood boil. Look, Tyler, she said as we walked through the apple orchard. Your great-great-grandfather planted these trees. Someday, it would be wonderful if you could take care of them. When we reached the barn, she told Zachary, this is where your Uncle Michael keeps all the equipment. It's a big responsibility for just one person. That's why family farms work better when there are children to help and eventually take over. The worst moment came when we stood on the hill overlooking the valley. It's my favorite spot, where Grandpa and I used to watch sunsets. Patricia put her arms around her children and said, your great-grandfather always dreamed this view would be enjoyed by many generations of our family. He believed in keeping the family together on this land. After they left, I found myself shaking with rage. Patricia had never cared about family togetherness when Grandpa was alive. She hadn't visited him in the hospital. She didn't help with his care. She showed up for the funeral and the will reading, and that was it. I've started documenting everything, saving her Facebook posts, recording our phone conversations, legal in Pennsylvania with one-party consent, and keeping a journal of her visits and comments. My friend Brian, who's a lawyer, suggested this after I told him what was happening. She's building a narrative, Brian explained. Making it seem like you're the unreasonable one, like she's just a concerned mother thinking about her children's future. You need to protect yourself. He was right. 2 days ago, I overheard Patricia at the local grocery store talking to Mrs. Henderson, whose family has farmed here for generations. It just breaks my heart, Patricia was saying. That farm has been in our family for 4 generations, and now it might end with Michael. He refuses to even discuss ensuring it stays in the family. My poor children are devastated. Mrs. Henderson, bless her, wasn't buying it. Funny, she said dryly. I remember your grandfather saying you couldn't wait to leave farming behind. And didn't Michael work that land every summer while you were off in the city? Patricia's face flushed, and she quickly changed the subject. But I know she'll keep trying, keep spinning her narrative. She's already convinced some distant relatives that I'm being selfish. Update 1. The family meeting, 2 weeks later. I thought I'd seen the worst of Patricia's manipulation, but I was wrong. Last week, she orchestrated a family intervention that showed just how far she was willing to go. It started with a call from my Uncle Robert, my mother's brother. Michael, we're having a family gathering this Sunday at Patricia's house. Just a casual get-together. Would love to see you. Something felt off, but I agreed to go. When I arrived at Patricia's McMansion in the suburbs, I realized immediately that this was no casual gathering. 15 family members were there, arranged in Patricia's living room like some kind of tribunal. Patricia sat in the center, her children notably absent. Michael, Patricia began, her voice dripping with false concern, we're all here because we love you and we're worried about the family's future. What followed was an hour of carefully orchestrated emotional manipulation. Patricia had prepared a presentation, an actual PowerPoint, about the importance of family legacy and generational wealth. She showed photos of the farm through the years, emphasizing how it had always been about family. Different relatives had been coached to share their concerns. Cousin Barbara talked about how sad it would be if the farm left the family line. Uncle Thomas mentioned how difficult farming is for one person and how family support was crucial. The crescendo came when Patricia pulled out a folder. I've had papers drawn up, she announced. A simple trust that would ensure the farm stays in the family. You would maintain lifetime residency and control, Michael, but it would guarantee that the next generation, Tyler, Ashley, and Zachary, would inherit when the time comes. I stood up slowly, my rage ice-cold. Let me make something very clear, I said, looking around the room. That farm is mine. Grandpa left it to me because I worked it, because I loved it, because I sacrificed for it. Where were all of you when Grandpa needed help with the harvest? Where was Patricia when he was in the hospital for 3 months? Where was this family support when I was 16 and rebuilding the barn with him? I turned to Patricia. You haven't set foot on that farm in 5 years before last week. Your children don't even know which end of a horse to feed. You're not interested in family legacy. You're interested in property values and what you can leave your kids without working for it. The room erupted. Some relatives tried to calm things down, others started arguing. Patricia's mask finally slipped completely. "You selfish bastard," she screamed. "You're going to die alone on that farm, and then what? It'll go to the state? Be sold to strangers? My children are the only legitimate heirs to continue the family line." "Your children," I said quietly, "are heirs to their father's banking fortune. They'll never want for anything. But they're not entitled to what I've worked for just because they share some DNA." I left immediately after, but the fallout was swift. My phone exploded with messages, some supporting me, others calling me selfish. Patricia posted a long Facebook rant about family members who choose isolation over tradition, and how some people don't understand the sacred duty of preserving family heritage. But something interesting happened. Uncle Robert called me that night. "Michael, I'm sorry. I didn't know what Patricia was planning. Your grandmother would be spinning in her grave seeing Patricia act like this. That farm is yours, son. Don't let anyone tell you different." Update 2. The escalation, 1 month later. I thought the family meeting would be rock bottom, but Patricia had more cards to play. What happened next made me realize just how dangerous entitled people can be when they don't get their way. It started with official-looking letters. Patricia had actually hired a lawyer to send me a formal request to reconsider the family's generous offer regarding the farm trust. The letter outlined how reasonable their proposal was and suggested that my refusal might indicate mental distress following my grandfather's death. The implications were clear. She was building a case to challenge my mental fitness. I immediately contacted Brian, who laughed bitterly. "She's grasping at straws," he said. "But document everything. This is harassment at this point." Then came the visits. Patricia started showing up at the farm regularly, always with the children, always uninvited. She'd park at the gate and let the kids out, telling them to go explore their heritage while she stood there, recording everything on her phone. One afternoon, I found Tyler in the barn, trying to start the tractor. When I firmly told him to stop, Patricia appeared instantly. "Why are you yelling at my child?" she demanded, phone already recording. "He's just curious about his family's equipment. He could have been killed." I shot back. "That tractor isn't a toy, and he doesn't know how to operate it safely." She posted the video on Facebook with the caption, "My son, trying to connect with his agricultural heritage, gets screamed at by the owner. Is this what Grandpa would have wanted?" The comments were mixed, but enough people bought into her narrative that I started getting messages asking why I was being cruel to children. The worst incident happened 3 weeks ago. I came home from a supply run to find Patricia had brought a realtor to the farm. They were walking around the property, the realtor taking notes and photos. "What the hell is this?" I demanded. Patricia smiled sweetly. "Oh, Charles and I were just curious about property values in the area. You know, for investment purposes. This is Sharon. She specializes in agricultural properties." Sharon looked uncomfortable. "I thought this was your property, Mrs. Williams." "Family property," Patricia said smoothly. "My cousin manages it currently." I ordered them both off my land immediately and called the police to file a trespassing report. Patricia left, but not before telling Sharon loudly enough for me to hear. "See what I mean? So unstable. Grandpa must have been declining mentally when he made that will." That's when I knew I needed to take serious action. Brian helped me file a restraining order against Patricia, citing harassment and trespassing. The judge granted a temporary order pending a hearing. Patricia's response was to escalate her social media campaign. She posted pictures of her crying children, claiming I had banned them from their ancestral home and was destroying family bonds out of spite. She shared old photos of the kids with Grandpa from years ago, conveniently cropping out the dates that would show how rarely they actually visited. Update 3. The legal battle, 2 months later. The restraining order hearing was a circus. Patricia showed up with her lawyer, her husband Charles, and had actually arranged for several family members to be there as character witnesses. She dressed her children in little farm-themed outfits and had them sitting in the gallery, looking sad and confused. Her lawyer painted me as an unstable, grief-stricken young man who was irrationally possessive of property that should rightfully be shared among family. They presented Patricia as a concerned mother just trying to preserve family traditions for her children. My lawyer, Brian, systematically destroyed their arguments. He presented a record showing I'd worked the farm for over 15 years while Patricia visited less than 20 times total. A bank statements showing I'd spent my own money on farm improvements while Patricia never contributed. A grandpa's handwritten letters expressing his wishes for me to have the farm. The harassment documentation, including over 50 unwanted visits in 2 months. screenshots of Patricia's social media campaign designed to damage my reputation. The judge wasn't fooled. She granted a permanent restraining order, stating that Patricia's behavior constituted a clear pattern of harassment designed to pressure the plaintiff into surrendering legally owned property. Patricia was banned from the farm and ordered to cease all social media posts about me or the property. But Patricia wasn't done. 2 weeks later, I was served with papers. She was actually suing me, claiming undue influence over my grandfather in his final years and demanding the will be overturned. Her argument: that I had isolated Grandpa from the rest of the family and manipulated him into leaving me the farm. The audacity was breathtaking. She was claiming that my caring for Grandpa, my working the farm, my being there for him was somehow manipulation. Meanwhile, she'd barely visited him in his final years. Brian wasn't worried. "She's desperate," he said. "This is a Hail Mary. No judge will buy this." He was right, but the process was exhausting. I had to provide years of documentation, witness testimonies from neighbors who'd seen me caring for Grandpa, medical records showing he was of sound mind when the will was made. The legal fees were mounting, eating into my savings. The local community rallied around me. Mrs. Henderson organized a group of farming families to write letters to the court about my dedication to the farm. The owner of the feed store testified about how Grandpa always spoke proudly of me. Even the mailman, David, offered to testify about the daily care he'd witnessed me providing. Update 4. The truth revealed, 3 months later. The lawsuit took an unexpected turn when Charles, Patricia's husband, reached out to me privately. We met at a coffee shop in town, and he looked exhausted. "Michael, I need to apologize," he began. "I had no idea how far Patricia was taking this until recently. I thought she just wanted to ensure the kids had a connection to the farm. I didn't know about the harassment, the lies, the manipulation." He revealed that Patricia had been hiding significant financial troubles. His investment firm had taken serious losses, and they were over-leveraged on their mortgage. Patricia saw the farm as their financial salvation, either to sell for development or to use as collateral for loans. "She's been telling the kids they're going to lose their house," Charles said, disgusted. "Telling them that if Uncle Michael would just share the farm, they'd be secure. I'm filing for divorce." This revelation changed everything. Charles agreed to testify in the lawsuit, providing evidence of Patricia's true motivations. He showed me text messages where Patricia discussed plans to develop the farm into a subdivision once she got control. The final hearing was last week. Patricia's lawyer tried to maintain the concerned mother narrative, but Charles's testimony destroyed it. He detailed how Patricia had hidden their financial problems while portraying me as selfish, coached the children to manipulate me emotionally, planned to immediately sell or develop the farm despite claiming to want to preserve family heritage, spent over $30,000 on legal fees they couldn't afford, betting everything on winning the farm. The judge not only dismissed the lawsuit but ordered Patricia to pay my legal fees. He called her actions a calculated campaign of harassment motivated by greed and entitlement, and noted that she had weaponized her own children in pursuit of financial gain. Final update: resolution and reflection. It's been 2 weeks since the court decision. Patricia has been silent. No posts, no contact through third parties, nothing. Charles followed through with the divorce and has primary custody of the kids. He brought them to visit last weekend, with my permission. "I want them to understand what really happened," he said, "and to apologize for their mother's behavior. It was awkward at first, but I showed them around the farm properly this time." Tyler was genuinely interested in learning about the equipment, safely. Ashley loved the horses. Zachary just wanted to chase chickens. For the first time, they were just kids enjoying a farm, not pawns in their mother's scheme. Charles told me Patricia is moving in with her parents in Florida. The house is being sold to pay debts. She's lost everything in her greed for what was never hers. As for the family divide, it's slowly healing. Many relatives have apologized for being manipulated. Some still think I should have kept the peace by giving in, but I've learned that keeping the peace often means letting toxic people win. I've made one decision that would probably anger Patricia if she knew. I've set up a trust for Tyler, Ashley, and Zachary, not for the farm, but for college funds. It's funded by the income from a section of the farm I've designated for sustainable timber. They're not entitled to my inheritance, but they're also not responsible for their mother's actions. Grandpa would have wanted them to have opportunities. The farm is thriving. I've expanded the organic vegetable operation and started a small educational program for local schools. Every week, kids come to learn about sustainable farming. I think Grandpa would love that his farm is teaching the next generation, even if they're not all blood relatives. I've also started dating again. Her name is Michelle, and she's a veterinarian who loves the farm life. We met when I called her to treat one of the horses. She doesn't care about inheritance or legacy. She cares about the present, about building something together. Patricia was wrong about one thing above all. Family isn't just about blood or inheritance. It's about who shows up, who does the work, who cares for each other. The people who stood by me through this ordeal, they're my family. The farm will continue to be filled with life and love, just maybe not in the way Patricia envisioned. Sometimes I stand on that hill overlooking the valley, the spot where Patricia tried to manipulate her children with false sentiment. I think about Grandpa and what he really wanted. He didn't care about bloodlines or family names. He cared about the land being loved, being worked, being respected. He left it to me not because I was his grandson, but because he knew I understood that. The farm's future is secure now, legally, financially, and emotionally. Whether I have children of my own or not, it will be passed to someone who loves it like I do, who works it like I do, who respects what it represents. That's the only legacy that matters. As for Patricia, I hope she finds peace and learns something from this. But if I'm honest, I mostly hope she stays far away. Some bridges, once burned by greed and entitlement, can never be rebuilt. And that's okay. Not all family is meant to be close. Sometimes the best thing you can do for your peace is to let toxic people go, even if they share your blood. The sun is setting now over the valley. The corn is growing tall, the apple trees are heavy with fruit, and there's a sense of peace that Patricia's chaos couldn't destroy. This is my home, my responsibility, my joy. And no amount of manipulation, lawsuits, or emotional blackmail will ever change that. Grandpa knew what he was doing when he left me this place. He knew I'd fight for it, protect it, and honor it. Not because it's valuable property, but because it's home. And sometimes, that's the greatest inheritance of all. Not just land or money, but the knowledge that someone believed in you enough to trust you with their life's work. The farm endures. And so do I.